Hello, my name is Fabrizio Russo. You probably know me as Rusto. In 2018, I took part in a beautiful event, Pain-O-Palooza, hosted by two amazing guys. You probably know them, Komets and Cexwish. I was there as head judge for the competition. I also did a lecture as painting session, and it was about a figure from Hate the Board Game, inspired by the comics from Adrian Smith. The event was amazing, so much fun, and some miniatures too. It's time to listen and watch the video done by my friend Matt. Ciao!
With a slow delay, I think we are ready to start the first lecture of the Pain-O-Palooza. First of all, thank you very much for coming, everyone. It's really actually fuller than we thought it might be, but actually you came to the right place because you have one of the greatest right in front of you, Fabrizio Rusto.
Thank you very much.
Fabrizio is a professional miniature painter since the year 2000, so he has been painting professionally 18 years by now. I mean, Fabrizio is a very old friend of mine.
Yeah.
I think it's 10 years that we have...
Yeah, maybe the first time we met in 2005.
Like 13 years then.
Yeah.
That's quite a long time. And well, Fabrizio is one of these characters that when you meet him, you immediately feel there's something special about this guy. You know, he's very calm. He's does his art like he paints in a style that I think not many people paint. It is, I would say, a little bit like illustrative style. It's more like painted style. It's not about crystal like smooth blendings. It's more about expression in what you do, and about moods also that you can achieve with color. So very fittingly, his class is also labeled "Color Has a Memory." He has studied at the Accademia di Belle Arti in Brera, that's in Milano. He has painted a lot of miniatures, but you cannot really pin him down on let's say fantasy or historical only. Yeah. I think you paint everything that you just get in your hands.
Yeah.
That's basically what you do.
I love colors, so that's why I paint everything.
The addict, right? That's the thing. So in your time, you have also taken part as both a competitor as well as the judge.
Yeah. Very
prestigious prizes like Monte San Savino, the World Expo Show. A couple of Golden Demons as well, while they were still running. Adepticon, Luca. Maybe the first question. I mean, you are our head judge.
Yeah.
What do you think? Why should people compete in painting competitions at all? Why should they do that?
I think there are two answers. The first one is because it's my answer. I love to do competitions. I really like to do competitions. So I think the first answer could be this one. When you paint, you put your art in your figure. So you want to know how big is your art when you do your competition. So that's the first answer. The second one is that we don't have any other way to meet us together. So in competition,
it's a very solitary art.
Yeah. So we don't have exposition. We only have competition. So it's the second answer.
Can you tell us a little bit about where you do your work? Where do you work? What is the environment there like?
Oh, at home usually. I have a little place at home where I put my brush strokes. So it's very solitary, as you told before. But it's your time, it's your expression. We have a lot of friends on internet, and that's you.
And when you paint something, how do you choose what it is that you will paint?
That's not so easy. So, my way to paint is just try to do the director of something like a film. I am the director, so I choose the light, I choose the way to express the figure, and I always try to do something like part of myself into the figure. So when I when I paint something like an ogre, I try to be that kind of ogre. So I imagine myself dressed like this, and try to think if it works some colors in that figure. So that's the main theme of.
It's a little bit like some actors. They have this thing that they become their role.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
you also think that.
Yeah. So you have to try to be your subject. So imagine to be.
Well, it's like a bloodthirsty ogre.
Imagine to smell like this kind of figure. Yeah. It could be funny and just a good way to give more to your page, maybe.
Okay, so I think question-wise, that's fairly enough. I think you had so a good impression about what Rusto is all about with the answers, and now he will just demonstrate actually his technique, how to paint on a miniature from the Hate board game, based on the concept of the almighty Adrian Smith, which you can see.
This is the concept who inspired the figure. I choose this theme because sometimes could be you can think it's easy to just look at the colors and do the same thing you're watching, but you can do something more if you want, and just like the sculptor did. The sculptor did his personal view of the figure. He just choose the right way for the pose, and then he select the best way to represent the. Sorry for my English. First of all. Anyway, so the same thing done by the illustrator. So he select a character, he paint, he design all the figure, and at the same time the sculptor did his personal view of. As you can see, is not identical. Identical. Yeah, sorry. At the same time, but it works. It works because in this case you are working on a bidimensional view, and in this case you have to work as a three-dimensional direction. So you have to move all the stuff in three-dimensional way. It must be round. And at the same time, when you paint, you don't have to watch only your reference. You have to take care of your reference, but you have to work at your best, at your favorite part of reference, and put yourself into the, because you can't do the same thing done by Adrian Smith. It's done. You don't have to do it exactly just like Adrian Smith done it. You can't. It's not a good idea. No. So let's start to paint. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I've done just a little airbrush to create the ambient, the red. The red ambience is so important in the figure. Yeah, sure. Thank you.
The trusty assistant will show the miniature around.
I gave a black undercoat, then a red shadow, and some skin color, and on the lights.
And so it is a little bit about translating the 2D into 3D, because it's not like, it is related, but it's not the same, right?
Yeah, it's
You're
not
not
the same.
painting a drawing. You're painting a sculpture that is actually already there.
Yeah. It's the first step. There is a concept. There is a three-dimensional figure, and you have to put your paint on the three-dimensional figure. It's the first step. So you can add more, and that's why we need to put ourselves in to give something more, to give something personal. So.
And do you use some test figures to just check the color scheme that it's working, or you are just if you are experimenting on the way the color scheme, or you are using some test figures before?
No. I just use my favorite colors to adapt the way to see the figure. As I told you, I'm not Adrian Smith, and nobody, just only one, just like all the other illustrators. So they've done their work, the sculptor did his work, and so we have to do the same thing. We have to respect the illustration, we have to respect the sculptor, and try to do our best. But even if it's a bit difficult, but.
So because the beginning is important, is it? Like the foundation?
Yeah.
Because if you don't do it like that, it's harder, or?
No, usually I don't use airbrush, but it's much more simple. I like brush strokes, and I like dirty effect. With your brush, you can do the same things I did with. Thank you very much. I did with airbrush, but this is much more fast. So fast. So that's why I choose this part. The first step is very easy. I always work with a lot shadows more than lights because I like the atmosphere, and it's very, very easy. Sorry. I need. As I told you, I only need to mix my favorite colors for the shadows. As you can see in the bidimensional is different. We have to give not the same colors because we have much more structure here. So in a bidimensional way, you only need gray and white to do a very smooth and very complex way of colors. In three-dimensional way, we work a lot we can work a lot with colors and with effect. So
there's two special colors that you use, and I remember you giving like also a class just about that at Adepticon. Your favorite.
These are absolutely my favorite colors for shadows. I use in all the shadows of all the particulars I'm making.
And we will not tell you which ones. Maybe you just pass it around.
Yeah.
They're heavy body acrylics.
Yeah, they're a bit shining, but with air dryer you can remove all the excess of water, and they are very, very flat. So I just mix them because I told you I love colors, and this is my favorite colors, absolutely. So there are no reason. I think when you have your own experience, you can choose your favorite colors and just add everywhere you want. This is not complex. This is not a simple color. It's a complex color because it's mixed between a dark turquoise, and a reddish purple, something like a reddish purple. So it's a very complex color, and the result is.
It's hard to describe, is it?
Yeah, it's hard to describe. It's darker than a black. when you use black, when you mix black to a color, it works on bidimensional because you don't need to make it round. As you can see in this, the figure has only one strong dark point. I want to improve all this dark point in all the structure of the figure. So that's why I use a purple, a dark purple, and it's the mix of these colors. So I show you. It's better.
Yeah. It's interesting, this theory, blacker than black, deeper than black.
Yeah. Your perception of colors is it's so easy to understand when you mix the color on your palette. Yeah, thank you very much. Because if you put a black color close to this kind of colors, you can easily see the difference. Mm-hmm. It works.
It works in both ways, also, right? It's not only black, not like using black as black, and not using white for white necessarily.
Yeah,
because white is also something that is. It's something that the eye and the mind does.
Yeah, I agree.
Sometimes white can be cream colored. Yeah. Blue can also be perceived as white, if you tell your brain that it is white.
Yeah. When you do chiaroscuro, just black and white, it's less complicated, complex than when you obviously than when you mix more colors. And the biggest contrast, theory is so simple, are just 7 rules, so everybody can study in just one day. If you want to learn more and more, there are so many books, but there are only seven rules about theory. So when you do some contrast, the biggest contrasts are from warm and cold colors and complementary. All the rest is chiaroscuro. Chiaroscuro is just draw. Okay, so that's why I use my glass. That's why I prefer to use colors in the shadows than black and white. I always use a big brush to start. It's a number 2 in this case. And I gave a color to be faster, yeah. I just want to show you the first step in half part of the figure. Thank you very much.
So right now you're using the mixture of those 2 colors?
Yeah, just a shadow. Yeah, just a shadow, very watercolor, just like a watercolor.
What? Yeah, it was with airbrush.
Yeah. The first step I did it with the airbrush just to be faster, because I prefer dirty effect and textures to smooth effects, but.
So yeah, also generally, do you prefer a smooth technique or a more energetic, expressive technique? And if you prefer one, why do you prefer it?
I don't know why. It's just me. I don't know. I never choose one or the other. I just try to paint as I did when I was a student, and this is the result. So I don't choose nothing. Mm-hmm. It's just the way of painting. Mm-hmm. I love so many smooth painter, because they are totally different by my way of painting. So.
And you're left-handed. I never noticed that.
Yeah.
It's more convenient now, but I never knew that.
Yeah, but we paint just one time together, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where we saw actually, yes, what we do, right? I mean, yeah, you can always look at the result 1,000 times, but
yeah,
actually painting, yeah.
In this case, I just arrived to the red part. I don't cover all the shadows because in this case the shadows, it's a light effect, so I have to stop my brush close to the red line.
Yeah, and also in the reference, it's a very like this red color.
Yeah.
Used as something like a rim light, like a side light that is extremely strong.
Yeah, yeah, because it's as you can see, this is everything is unsaturated, and there is only a very strong red.
Yeah, that's the only color,
yeah,
like saturated one that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ah.
And it's a perfect choice because red is a dominant color. If you when I do my classes, I always I always left the people choose their favorite colors for some particulars. I prefer if they don't use red, because if you in your t-shirt it's perfect. It's a perfect sample. If you watch him just for 1 second and you leave out your face, you remember only his red tone.
Yeah.
And it's just a little part. It's really the smallest part of a t-shirt. The t-shirt is red, but that's not real. The t-shirt is close to be blue. That's why I said when you use a red color in figures, it must be very well balanced because it's very, very dominant.
Yeah.
So.
And similar to the topic of your class, color has a memory.
Yeah.
Color has
yeah.
also impact, and it has a meaning. It
yeah.
has a symbolism.
Yeah. Yeah.
A weight.
Absolutely, absolutely. Weight is, in this case, is so important. That's why use carefully your red, because it's very strong when you do.
Strong weapon, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When you watch a figure, the first things you have to watch is eyes, is his eye, and in this case, what do you see? This part is the first part you see, but this is a big. This is not big, but the original is bigger, so you can see only with one eye. Usually we work on this measure, so when we have the figure in our hands, we have to look immediately, put the attention, the focus on his eye. Don't worry, on his eye. So take care of your weight and measure. Okay.
And you met Adrian Smith not long ago at Lucca.
Yeah. I know him. I know him quite well. It's a very strong personality and an idol for me. So,
if you would see the guy, would you be able to tell that he painted these paintings? Like, is it something in his personality that you could feel that he's, because his painting is, it's hard to describe, you know. It's a lot of desaturated colors, but then again, it's full with. It's a little bit grim, you know.
Yeah.
These teeth, everything is like very like you know.
Yeah.
Very often.
Yeah, it's close to his personality. It's very close to his personality.
Okay.
So.
Bloodthirst.
Yeah.
No.
But it's very. It's a real funny person. So I was very lucky to meet him, and we are in contact. I'm very happy about that. So I'm very lucky. This year was very fortunate about all the artists I met. So maybe next Lucca there will be the same showcase with artists, and So if you're planning to be in Lucca, it will be very, very nice.
It's also really interesting to see how some artists paint eyes, never white, you know. Kirill Kanai, for example, he paints them red very often, like really red. And it's such a nice effect because if you look at references of eyes, first of all, mostly they are a little bit brighter than the skin tone. It's not at all white. And the second of all, the whites of your eyes, they can do a lot of really weird things. They tell a lot about your health. So if they are a little bit yellowish, it might be worth like looking to your liver. If they are red shot, like sometimes you have that too. You have just like no white at all. They're like completely red, and that can be from extreme stress. Little bit, you know, this is really something that is such a small detail, but since people are conditioned to read the face so well, you will see immediately that there is something off, and you might want to not put the strong white in there. And also, another reason why you should never use pure white is that it doesn't get, or like pure black, it doesn't get more black than that.
Yeah.
With an exception, there is a little bit that you can do. For example, add some gloss, because if you have arrived at the black, a gloss will always give you a little bit additional depth there.
Yeah, when you think on a color, it's not only the flat exposition of that kind of colors. If you want to realize turquoise, each kind of colors, you can give him much more interest if you put some complementary color, just a little taste of
a little impact. Yeah.
A little impact. Yeah, it will be much more complex and much more interesting. The difficult part is just to balance it. Okay, balance it because it must be that kind of colors. You don't, if you want to realize. Just like his T-shirt, if you want to realize a blue T-shirt, you don't have to. You can add some red color, red part, but there must be very, very close, very, very thin, very. But it's very interesting to put different colors in to realize not a flat effect. Yeah. Of that kind of color.
In painting, there's also this one effect called smuggling red. Have you heard about that?
No.
It's for people who usually paint big landscape.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of green in there.
Yeah.
So adding tiny amounts of red or orange will make it like smuggling them in. Will enhance the effect of depth so much.
Absolutely.
It sounds counterintuitive, but it's absolutely. But it's, as you said, it's a question of balance.
Balance, yeah.
If you don't balance it right, you end up with something, with a mess.
If your eyes notice it immediately, the problem, that it's something that you have to correct.
You're like a smuggler that has been caught.
Yeah. Yeah. If you don't see that kind of difference, means that it works. Even when you go to a cinema to look at I don't know, medieval film, and there are some frames with somebody who run with
Nike shoes.
With a clock. So that light in that part show you that there's something that doesn't work. It's only one frame. We are working on a frame. That's only one frame, and everything must be easy to watch. So understandable. So that's it.
Maybe one or two words about your general setup. What do you think about colors, like the brushes? Special type of brands?
There are no brand I like.
You hate them all.
No, everybody hates Games Workshop colors, but they are not so bad if you know them very well. You know they don't cover nothing, so you use this kind of colors
Yeah, you get to get
with transparency. Transparency of colors is perfect. So you know how to use it, and that's the best way. As I told you, I love these kind of colors, but are very shiny, very shiny. So
they also have their properties,
yeah,
and that you need to know
yeah,
about.
yeah,
Right?
absolutely. Yeah. If you know the property of colors, you can use them.
Yeah.
If you like a tone, buy it, and you will find a way to use it. Maybe, okay, this is my favorite color, but it's too shiny. I will use it only on one particular, just a little. But I like it, so we are maniacs. So so we buy all the colors we like, and we will find the solution to use it. It's just I don't like brand. The only brand I use is Winsor & Newton Series 7 number 0. All the other brush are casual. It's the only brush I use 90% of a figure. So all the rest, it's your taste, it's your brush strokes, it's your experience. The most important part on painting is your experience. So it's just a muscle. So you have to improve your strong with painting. That's all.
You said that you use a number 0 for the whole miniature for 90% of it.
Yeah, number 0. Yeah. Because I am. I don't want to lose time to change so many, so many
You're
brushes.
Lazy.
Yeah, I'm lazy. Yeah, sorry.
So you also said that you prefer to work on the shadows.
Yeah.
You start a bit lighter than a base tone, and then you just mainly work on the shadows, and then just like final tones on the lights. So.
Yeah, usually I start with light mid-tones, and then I add all the shadows to arrive at this point, the one I show you. To be faster now, I just did it with the airbrush, and the reason is that the second reason is that in this case, as I told you before, is chiaroscuro tones variation. So the color is not so complex. I just add, if I add my purple, I give much more complexity to the color than in the illustration. So it's an easy way to arrive at this point. So now I can easily go to refine some part of the shadows, and maybe I'm close to the end of a shadow. I prefer to show you the mood. That's why I did it with airbrush. Now I'm just mixing a part of skin colors with the saturate. I don't remember the color. I just used something like a yellowish color. It's a sand color, flesh color, and khaki, dark khaki brown, just to have a desaturated mixed shadow part of a flesh tone, so I can easily. If you want to come here, it's it's good to see this part.
No need to. It's an important part, you say.
Yeah. I show you. Oh, you can stay in front of me. I just show you. This is the. I just pass all the color now. All this part of the color is on all the surface. Close, not also only the flesh part. Sorry. And now I can start painting the flesh tones. This is the mix with the flesh, with a yellow part, and khaki. Yeah, thank you very much. It's just a brown effect. It's just with the with a smell of flesh. I always like to put some flesh part when I paint all the flesh part of figures, even if it's a monster. I always try to put some flesh part because color has a memory, and your imagination, it's very. We recognize flesh tones easily if there is a little part of flesh tones in the colors we use. So if I have to do a green skin, I will add always a little part of flesh tones. Okay, now with the transparency, this is very close to be technical effect. So I can put just my brush strokes and select all the light. When it's so easy, this part is just technique. So when you attach the brush, this is the transparent part. When you remove the brush, this is the when you put your pigment. So this is the strongest part. So the attach of a brushstroke must be very, very transparent, and you can move just with one brush. Just with one brushstroke, you have a very, very strong contrast. As you can see, we are on this kind of tones, up on this kind of dark color. So,
but you still preserve the saturation of the shadow.
Yeah. You can take it. Yeah. Obviously, this one is a strong muscular figure. So if you want, so it's easy to select where you have to put your light. When the figure are so smooth, just like women, you have to stay. You don't have to do the biggest contrast. You have to stay very smooth, very clean. The most important part is the face, is the eye. So I start painting all the rest of a flesh tone, just to do some gym with the brush, you know. So warm up. Well, thank you very much.
So you start with everything besides face.
Yeah, I start from the back, you know. I start from the back to the frontal part. All my brush strokes goes in the direction of the face. Yeah. The lights are all in the direction of the face. The shadows are all in the opposite direction. That's to create an ambient, and that's because of a technical aspect of a brush stroke. I showed you when you attach the brush, it's transparent, and when you remove it, that's the part where stay the color.
Like controlling where the pigment sets, because the pigment will always set rather where you release the brush pressure, so to say. It's like these controlled coffee stains.
Yeah. I'm going fast, so you can see all the. It's not important if you get dirty on the other particular, because that's why I choose to paint the skin as a first step, because I can go on the other particulars later and correct all the flesh part goes.
Here you went like a bit crazy in the sense that you directly moved to like a really light glaze. So do you usually also work like this, or
to go a bit more step-like?
No. I always the biggest step is done because I did it with the airbrush. Now it's just to work in the middle. So I'm just working on the medium color of a skin, and then later I will add some shadows once again, and turn back shadows and lights. So.
Do you mostly use the zenithal highlight if you want to your face with the highest highlight, or you use some direct points of light, for example, on the sides?
It depends on the figure. In this case, the most important light is in the shadows. So all the rest of the model, I will do a zenithal light just to show the volumes and all the details. As you can see, this color is on the palette is completely desaturated. But if you add it on a surface like this, it's more saturated than the background. So that's a part of the contrast that you can use conceptually. Yeah. So the saturation is different. Could be different on your palette than on your figure.
Do you always work in glazes, or in other situations when you use a base coat, so to say?
No. I always use glazes. I like to do different layers perfectly dry, and adding texture or shadows. Sorry, I just go fast to show you the impact of that.
Do you paint all the main highlight with the same color, or you sometimes differentiate, for example?
Yeah, correct. In this case, I use always the same colors because it's just a chiaroscuro tones variation, but I can always add different kind of colors. I prefer to add different kind of colors when I work layer by layer. So if I do not have a reference in this kind of figure, probably in this area I can add some rose part or orange or something very strong to give him a complex way of color.
I heard that the old oil painters used green foundation below skin colors. Is it still done in miniature painting, or?
Sorry, can you repeat?
That old oil painters used green foundation below skin colors.
Yeah.
It's still done in miniature?
Yeah, it's green. It's my second choice for the shadows, because when we look in our face, in our body, there are a lot of tones, little tones, very green. You know, the skin is I think 7 part of seven layers. So we have a very complex kind of colors. We have veins, we have red part, we have a lot of tones. Everybody is different here, so we can do a lot of variations, and it's very interesting, that part, more than all the other particulars. When you're working on a cloak or something like that, you can be much more relaxed in your way to choose the colors. You can do, I don't know, some variations, but it's not so important. When you work in to realize a skin color, just like traditional painting, is sometimes, you know, I remember some traditional, now I don't remember the name exactly, it's obvious, but there is an American painter of the last century, Edward Hopper, who did some very, very interesting flesh tone colors. You can see some very big canvas where he put for the shadows cinabro, green cinabro, you know, that kind of color. It's a very shining green, very light green, but compared to the rose part of the skin tone, goes deep in the shadow. It's unbelievable. If you cover the rose tone of the skin, you only see a very, it's not like this, but it's much more cold. It's colder than this green. Yeah, something like a jade green, correct. Something like a jade green. It's a bit more deeper, but it's similar. Yeah. So when you use green tone in your shadows for the skin, goes immediately deeper than this kind of colors. The saturated color are very, very good for chiaroscuro. So if you want to go on a black and white contrast, it's correct. But if you add some part of colors, you will have immediately a deeper contrast. So as you can see, I just go from the external part to the internal part to create, to give the attention on the face.
So will you add like more saturated yellows for the lights?
Not at the moment.
Oh,
not at
yeah,
the moment. Maybe later. Maybe
yes.
later I can use more. At the moment, I'm just working on the volumes, so I don't need to. Yeah. Just to know the model, because you have to understand how is the model.
So then perhaps you think more like, okay, let's now focus on the volume, then later, okay, here I need some saturation, and then you add the saturation instead of thinking like everything together and doing.
No, I will think about that later. Because I just watch the figure and I try to understand how it works.
Out of curiosity, how long do you spend on average on model? For example, a model like that?
More than 2 days, for sure. More than 2 days. Yeah.
Painting like 8 hours a day?
More than 8 hours a day. Now I have a child, and so I paint 8 hours a day when I can. But when I didn't have my baby, I paint more than 10 hours a day. So it's not don't do child. It's just it's just paint when you can do it. So the meaning of color as a memory is that you're always able to add the color you used before, because we are working with transparency, and if we add, if we want to add a tone on the figure that you are working, you're always in time to add it. In this case, I just select the reddish part of purple I made before. It's always the same mix, but it's much more reddish than the one I used before, because I had a big red colors on the light, on the shadow. So I need to make it more intense, and this is so easy. Just clean some brush strokes I left before, and remember the color. It's just two brush strokes, but it goes deeper, and the transparency gives just a little part of red and goes stronger to the shadows. I always work in the middle. I show you here. If I have to do a line, a dark line here, I don't paint like this. I paint this because this part is transparent and this part is the pigment. So I paint in this part and then just a bit in the other side. So the pigment goes in the middle, and this is the strongest part. If I put a line like this with acrylics, we have here a bottom and two lines, and into the two lines we have a light. So this is the only technical part of painting. All the rest is impression, as I told you, is your way to be that kind of character. Okay, when you work on figure, on strong figure like this, very muscular figure like this, you have to respect the sculptor, but it's better if you know something of anatomy. It's just a bit better, because sometimes we see it's normal. We see in the middle of a body the darkest part of the shadows. That's not natural. That's absolutely not natural. We all have the strongest light here. The sternal part is the strongest light. Okay, the maximum light is on the eye. It's in the middle of your eye. But this part is, if you use a zenithal light, this part is one of the strongest light of your body. So if the sculptor did this strong muscle, ABS, you have to just to do a little personal correction. That is not a correction, is the real light of the model. So you know that, and you can go to correct this. When I told you that the color has a memory, if I did some mistake, I can easily correct with the other color I used. Just a brush stroke, even if it's totally different, this tone by this tone. With the transparent, I can add more shadows or correct just the brush strokes. It's not finished, but it's just to show you how it works. This part is very, very light, a light part of the model.
Are you going to paint his metals in MM or regular metallics?
I prefer regular metallics. There are not so many. To me, there are not so many figures that you can paint with metal, non-metal. But it's only a personal way to see him, and I like the kind of color. I know it's better use metal non-metal for a photographic effect, because gray tones are easily to recognize by your camera. But in real life, I have a different feeling with.
But what about, for example, the strong red light? Do you think it's going to look as well on the metallics as it would on non-metallics? Because I think it might be a little problematic. What I want to hear your.
Oh, with the strong red light. Ah,
yes,
you mean? Oh, yeah. No, it's not. It's not a problem. You can when you use. I didn't took with me metallic colors, but when you use metallic colors, you can easily add your tones to the.
So you just mix in the color to the metal.
Not always mix. Usually, I did the first step on this blade. Imagine I use a medium metallic, and I just add not black, a gray tone or a mid tones like this one, because sometimes metallics go separated when you put it on the surface, and mix it with just a little part of acrylic colors. They are a bit more flat, just a bit. So this is the first step. I paint all the surface with mid tones of metallic and just a little bit of dark gray, and later I add this lovely color as a shadow. So I always do. Maybe it's better to give him a darker blue effect, because it's similar to the image that you have in of a blade, and so you cover all the work you did with the metallics. There's no metallic here, but imagine it. And as you can see, the sense of a brushstroke is from the middle of all the figure to the external part. The shadows are always in the same direction. So I just start in the middle and leave the brushstrokes in the end of a model. Anyway, 1, 2, 3 steps when you think it's complete, when you think it's very dark, and then you turn back on the midtones, metallic midtones, and then one light with metallic tones, just metallic tones, and then the last light to give texture. I use golden color. Golden is another artistic, you know? Okay. It's another artistic brand similar to Winsor & Newton. It's called Pearl Fine. Pearl Fine, and it's very, very shining. You can use it, this kind of colors, you can use it without water, because, as you can see, are very, very elastic. So you can work it for a long time, more than this kind of color, especially in metallic pigments. Are perfect to use in I call pasta, this part of color. So I just take a lot of pasta of the color, and I use it for now it's not the correct color. Anyway, I used the white to show you. Oh, this is a new line of colors. I can't say more than this, but it's very, very interesting because they work very, very nice. I never use white, as just like I said Matt before, but in this case I'm trying now, and it's very, very interesting kind of white. So it's very similar to this kind of colors. And now I can show you how I work with texture on metal. Imagine this is the Pearl Fine colors, golden. So I can just give some cut line or just some points, just to do some little texture on the brush strokes, on the blade. Okay, if you have okay, in this case is metal, not metal, but obviously the dimension of a brush strokes now is a bit different. It's obvious. So if I have to do a little light on the darkest part, it's a real little light. It's the same color, but this part is bigger, so it looks less strong than in this part. So I can add another layer with the same color to give the same strongness. And with the same, if you add the same color, maybe I said obvious things, but it's important. If you add in transparent the same color more time, your result is much more round. It's I call him avvolgente. It's full. It's very
volumes are bigger.
Volumes, yeah, yeah. This muscle is another important part. Each sculptor sign it very well. It's called sternocleidomastoideo, and it's a real important light of your model because it defines all the figure and goes.
It draws your eye to the face.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you very much. It's, in practice, it's your frame of your face. So now the brushstrokes are just a bit smaller, so I can go deeper into details. And the same concept I show you for the sternal part is on this part of the face. Sculptors always draw this part of the face like this, yeah. But it's not natural. So we have different kind of muscular effect here. But this part is very full of light. It's just a little dark. Shadows, and it's one of the 7 parts of your skin. So this is a perfect part to add some red tones or green tones. Very shiny. You did the shadows before, so the color remember all your shadows you made before. And with some red part or green part as you like, or both, some red on the top, or green on the all over. You can obtain a very realistic feeling with the skin. Even if it's not black, this is not black. This is not dark, as you can imagine it. It's just the way the sculptor did it. So you have to give a good transition between the imagine you have, the work of a sculptor, and what you know. You have to know just a little part of. It's just if you don't want to study anatomy because it's boring, I know. Look at some pictures. Yeah, if you have so many references, look at the face of your friends, of all the persons who are close to you, and just think on how to translate in color. Obviously, you can't do miracles. If the sculptor did like this, you have to respect it. So, and even we have a small, very small figure, so it's normal to draw that kind of lines.
Before starting the miniature, do you already have like a palette in mind, in the sense of this?
Yeah.
This part will go in this color.
Yeah. I always try to imagine. This is my job, so I always try to imagine two different kind of colors, because sometimes happens that customer wants the same figure. So I always try to imagine a normal palette and just another one much more visionary palette. You know, just let's try. So as you can see, in the middle of sternocleidomastideo, we will have a very strong light that complete the sternal part that I mentioned before, and it goes always in the same direction. I paint in this direction. Yeah, this is the strongest light, because it go easy to the middle of a face and put all the attention on the face. You have always to think on the face of a model. Yeah, there are some cases, usually are a pyramidal figure. But sometimes are very, very strange, and you have to move your brush strokes on the figure you have to represent.
Since you know, let's say already more or less how the miniature will look, or you have to think about it, it is going to have like a bit more dominant color, or it's going to be like more those browny.
In this case,
you have the dominance of the light.
Yeah. In this case, I just add white colors, and it's just boring because.
I mean, it makes sense because it's really the mood of the.
Yeah. But it's important to have only one dominant color. Mm-hmm. It's the mood when you dress something, you think on that kind, even if it's a complex color, just like that one, it's very complex, but it's the dominant, you know. It's if you add on this, sorry if I if I put attention on you, but it works. If you use if you have used trousers, thank you very much, with the same kind of composition, it could be too much, you know. So it's so you have a dominant color, you have a dominant mood. It could be free hands. It could be, but it must be only one, because the attention, even if he has an important, a complex color on the T-shirt, when I talk with him, I don't watch the the T-shirt. I just watch him in face, and that's why we have to put our attention on the face. So even if there is a dominant color, if we use I don't know, green on this part, red on this part, and blue on this part, it's impossible to arrive in the middle of a face, you know. So that's very, very important. When you use in your case, sorry, in your case, when you use different patterns, it's perfect balanced, because you have black and white, a little black and white pattern, and goes perfectly on the black T-shirt, so you can easily watch her in the face, and that's the way you usually your way to dress yourself, even if you don't think about your okay, today this T-shirt is clean, and I put this T-shirt, okay, it's perfect. But when you put the clean T-shirt, you select immediately your trouser, immediately. So even if you don't want, you do it.
As for this drawing attention to the face and the middle of the model, I've read some tutorial, I don't remember where, but that is a good idea to treat your model as a cylinder that has a light, main light on the in the middle.
Yeah, absolutely. All the movement of the colors goes in the same direction. That's why I can always do some corrections on the model. You can't do wrong in your. You can't do mistake in your model. You can always go on. Less is more. So if you arrive immediately on the solution, it's better, because you don't fight with your model, with your brush. You're always in time to do improvement and to do corrections. That's why I use the same color 2 or 3 times in.
For example, regarding textures, like for the leather or whatever, do you only use them in places where you want to bring a bit more attention, or like a rule everywhere?
It depends on the texture, obviously, but usually, as I told you, that's a little rule. I don't like rules, but that's a little important rules that you can think. And less is more. So we are working on very small figure. If we add so many texture, it's too much. It's really too much. When I know that I have to add texture, just like I show you in this part, only the last light is my texture. When the texture must be strong, I work on the last light and on the last shadow. On the last shadow. The midtones could be the part that create the smooth effect. So we have, when it's strong, we have 2 parts of texture, the last light and the last shadow. And when it's not so strong, I have 1 part of texture and 2 parts of smooth color. It's very fast, so don't look at the brush strokes, please. just look at the way to give the shadows and the light, and it's just a color. I always try to add another light to the model, because it's a technical improvement. So if in your brushstroke you can add 1 more light, and you can understand when and where to stop your colors. So I always try it on the. I always try to arrive on this kind of light. And it's the same meaning of the shadows. I love this color, so I use this color for all the shadows, and I use this color for all the lights. So that creates kind of atmosphere in all the model. If I use, obviously, not in the metallic part, but in all the details, I can add this kind of light, because it's not white. White usually is not an interesting color in acrylics. When you do a scale color, white destroy the quality of the color. I don't know how to explain it better. It's not so interesting. It's
too much.
Too much. Yeah, something like that. But if you found I don't know, ivory, or in this case it's pallid witch flesh. Okay, but it's close to white.
Slightly warm gray white.
Yeah. If you have something close to white, use it, or you can create it easily. You have your white, and if you want a very cold, this is too much, a very cold white, you can add just a bit on the white, and that's really different from the white color, and it goes very, very interesting to give. It's not so easy to work with a light, with a blue light color, because usually cold colors are for, you can imagine it, you can
for night.
Yeah, for shadows, for night, for gives a deeper effect. So anyway, let's turn back on our light. I just add to the mix I did before, and as you can see, I don't use the scale. I don't work step by step. I prefer to use the transparent part of the colors. To obtain much more contrast and less work. At your first look is too much, because now I'm working on chiaroscuro. So this is very, very light, very, very chiaro. And in this case, I lose all the tones of the flesh. It's not a problem. You can always add it later. So I know it. I just want to improve the light. So I know this kind of working, and later I will add some natural skin colors.
So work on the gradient first.
Yeah. Okay, another stupid part, but very interesting. When you work on a surface like this one, that is very complex and it's not so easy to understand, because we have a lot of muscle in this part and bones, and so we have so many shadows and light very close. You just and maybe some particular like that, the ring. And inside you have to work on the same color that if there is not the rings. So you have to think on this particular, you have to paint this particular and pay attention on this part, because sometimes we work in all the details, and the ring part could result just like a round part of flesh, but it's not a round part of flesh. It's just the flesh covered by another particular. So this part probably will be a big light, only a big light, but we have to work in the same or using the same set of colors. Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, only this part is done. So it's just another step. You can pass by.
When you are reaching the end of a miniature,
yeah,
there is always this part that is like, okay, I can do something else.
Yeah.
I can do something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you more or less know when something is finished, or at some point you have to say, okay?
It's not so easy to understand when you have to stop. That's the most difficult part, because everybody wants to do more. Everybody wants to add one step, and you destroy everything you've done before. It's not a problem. As I told you, color has a memory, so you can always turn back on your colors. In this case, I have a lot of problems that I have to turn back on my colors. So it's normal, because when you're at home, it's easier. Everything is easier. To me, the best way to understand when you have to stop is try to do that one more light. Try to do it. Just try it. You can put your brush on the figure, and you see immediately if it works or not. So you have some seconds to delay the layer. So it's very easy. But do it. It's so important. Do mistakes. It's so important. When you do not recognize your mistake, that's the worst part of painting, because everybody puts himself in the paint, in the model that is working, and when you do it, it's not so easy to say by yourself, okay, I did a shit, because it's not a good way. But sometimes if you recognize that it's not a shit, but there's something that doesn't work, that's a good translation. If you ask to your parents, everybody said, it's fantastic. So and maybe some friends too. So so you have to think at yourself. So
as you said in the very beginning, we can get like saturation by color,
yeah,
or by like light,
yeah,
or by warm and cold.
Yeah.
You try to put everything, or let's say, for example, they're just focused like the super light colors of skin and then the dark.
Everything comes naturally in colors. When I told you the sample of desaturated light on your palette and saturated on the model, that's a good sample, because sometimes you don't think on.
Yeah, I was saying about contrast between these things.
Yeah. I try to think on all the contrasts I can use in a model, but sometimes happens on the palette. Yeah. So if you understand that it goes in that direction, you can use it. So and that's thank you. And that's another important part of your improvement of your the light. So okay. As I told you, we have space maybe to do another one step. This is for sure the last light I try to use on the skin.
It's better if done. Yeah.
And so it's always smaller. The risk is that you can have lines. Lines are not so interesting to see in muscles. So try always to work in a round. Yeah. Try always to move the brush in all the direction to give a central light. because if I move all in one direction, there will be for sure a strong contrast in this part. Is the strongest light, and this is the strongest shadow. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it works on muscle like this, but it's not natural. If you cover one part of a model, you have to recognize that anatomical part. And with lines, it doesn't work. It's not so natural, even if you are super. We were talking about the last light of the model, and sometimes you will always try to do a last light. You always try to do the last light color, but sometimes you don't have space to do that. So because the brushstrokes are very very thin, so I always work in this direction, not only one direction of brushstrokes, but this a circle, a kind of circle, a sun, you know. So it's not always regular. Sometimes it's a little on that part, the strongest on the other side. Obviously, it depends on the shape that you're working.
Also, your highlight white is not very voluminous. It's like just standard. I mean, it's the secret white, right?
Yeah. This one, I'm studying this white because it's very interesting.
Yeah, me too. It's very creamy. The consistency is very creamy.
Yeah. And it goes rich with the other colors. This one is very nice. So. We'll see.
We cannot talk about it at the moment, right?
No, at the moment it's a super secret, fucking super secret. Anyway, let's turn back on the last light. As you can see, at the moment is just a chiaroscuro, so we lose the tones we did in the middle, but we always have time to recreate it because the color has a memory. So that's the little. Okay. Okay, and about the lines, I was talking is just that you have to create something similar to the natural anatomy. So in anatomy, you don't have this kind of strong muscle. So if you cover a part of a model, sometimes you do not recognize the figure. So if you know just a bit of anatomy, that can correct the way you can add shadows and lights, or maybe you can just study, just like I did in this case, just study the work of a sculptor, because it's beautiful. So you can use it.
But also talking about like anatomy, we are painting an ogre, right? So. Looking at references is difficult. You might look at body, like weightlifters, bodybuilders.
Yeah.
And you might see something there that you might want to enhance, and then suddenly it becomes, it's like an inspiration from reference, really.
Yeah, absolutely. We always need reference, physical reference, or in your mind. If you have something in your mind, that gives to the model a bit more of personality. But if you don't know how to do that part, it's better if you have a reference, because you will learn, and later it will be part of your experience. So that's so important. Anyway, we lose all the tones of the colors because now we have a white color versus dark shadow colors that, if you watch at this kind of distance, looks black and white, chiaroscuro. Okay, it looks black and white. So we have to turn back on the flesh color
to bring some saturation back.
Yeah. So we can choose our favorite midtones. In this case, I will use something like more yellowish because it's easy to move the colors in this kind of tones. It's not a yellow, an important yellow. It's just a bit of yellow. So the red tones are saved, and you can easily add mid-tones with the saturated yellow. And I go just in the middle. I turn back on some light. I can create some veins like this. Goes in the darkest part. Another important part is sometimes we leave some dark part close to the details. This part of the armor has a very, very strong, very large scale. So if I just leave a lot shadow on the flesh tones, there will be another very dark shadow on the armor, and the result is a strong dark color here. It's not so natural. When you add something to your skin, even you can see it's a little thin line.
Yeah, it's like not black lining.
Yeah. It's not very good. Bravissimo. It's not black lining. I hate black lining. Obviously, we have a small surface to paint, so it's just a little touch of with your brushstroke. So, but if you know all these details, if you can think on all the details just before to put your brush on the model, your mind do it directly. It's not your arms that paint. It's your mind that is painting. So
my father has always also said that.
Really?
Your mind creates what you see.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
really
yeah.
true, you know, because your brain tries to make sense of what you see.
Yeah. Always your brain tries to make sense. If you know it before to do, it's very less complicated.
And you spend most of the time on the focal parts of your miniature, like the head. You said is something like a focal point.
Yeah.
So most of the painting goes in this part, right?
Yeah. Most of the lights. No, not most of the painting. Most of the lights goes on that direction. But I always love to work with lateral light or something like that. So in this case, it's not natural to have this kind of black, of dark shadow, but it's just a bit more interesting as a, director's cut. Yeah, sounds good like this. So I just add my way of my interpretations to the model. I know it doesn't work in this. It's not natural to have this kind of shadow in this area because this area is very, very full of light. So it's impossible to have this difference. But it works because when I'm focused on this part of the model, I don't see this shadow. I just see the focus part. So it's just
It's a decision, right?
Yeah,
you decide.
Yeah. It's just ambient.
Where do you put emphasis? And this is your version of.
Yeah,
this.
it's just atmosphere, ambient. It's just something that you can create. It's the same way the illustration create their own figure. In bidimensional painting, so many steps we did are just a wash, you know. It's just a little brush strokes, or a big brush strokes to create that kind of ambient that we go crazy to create on a miniature. My only suggestion is just to know what you are doing. If you know a little part of anatomy, if you don't know anatomy and you have a lot of references the same, so understand what you are doing. That's the most important part. If you don't know, I don't know. There are a lot of great painters that don't know how is composed. I call him grand dentato. I don't know is the English name of this part. This part of this muscle. Sometimes sculptors create some balls on that part. It's not a real ball. It's a lot of triangles. You know, it's interesting to move your colors to create that kind of shape because sometimes it's just a movement of your
brushstroke.
No, for the sculptor, it's just a little movement, and it's natural for the sculptor because he know anatomy perfectly. So he do just one movement, and you have to work with your brush to create the shape that the sculptor don't want to create, because in that movement the sculptor probably imagine the shadow. So if you know how it works the anatomy, you can control the shadows of the sculptor. It's just a mediatic way to do the painter. So
some painters also call this sculpting with color.
Yeah. That's it. And it's very very important. You can draw it easily.
You can modify it.
Yeah,
more dramatic.
absolutely. And that's important for the expression. Sometimes we work on all the models, looking for all the shape of the model, and we don't give an expression to the figure. And it's so important give an expression to the figure, because when the artist creates the idea, always gives us sensation to the public, and we have to do the same. We have to try to do the same, because it's our interpretation. So it's very, very, very nice to work like this. We are in time?
So yes, we are in time.
Okay.
If I would suggest, if someone has a question to Fabrizio, it could also not have to do with this model, but something personal. Just shoot. I mean, he's here. He can answer if he wants, if he feels like. So now is the time. If you have any questions, do that. Other than that, I would just like thank you very much.
No, thank you. Thank you to have time to listen to all my stupid way to. Even if it's your job, I don't know for how many persons it's a job, but if it's a job, we are very lucky to play with colors as a job. So. So
do you have a special studio where you paint?
No, it's in my home. It's just I just walk for 10 seconds and and I'm at work. So sometimes it's bad because I don't go out for days and it's crazy. But luckily I have a little dog, so. Yeah. Luckily, I have a little dog, so I must go out three times a day, and that's all. when you start talking with your models, that's a real problem. That's the real problem. So,
do you leave miniatures without finishing? Like it's like I cannot continue with this anymore.
No. I always I always finish. I have a lot of figures not finished because are mine.
Yeah, but I guess professionally.
Yeah. But all the I try to be as professional as I can. In this period, it's very, very difficult because there are a lot of things to do. I'm going out on a bad period because I gave a model to a customer 3 weeks later than I said him, and that's very bad to me because it's not so professional, and I don't like to say one thing, and I can. It's the second time in my career that happens, but
we are to blame.
Yeah. So,
okay.